Good
Uh,
morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Writing and Publication Podcast. I am your host, Jason Zhang, and with me today is Alfred Kwan, Paul Zhao, and Marshall Ma. Introduce yourself, guys.
Who wants to go first?
All right, so today's topic is the Writing and Publication Council. We like to recommend some movies for people to watch over the quarantine, and we have some excellent choices today. Who would like to go first with their movie recommendation?
I volunteer, Marshall.
Fine, I'll go first. So my recommendation is The Death of Stalin. It's available on Netflix. It is a comedy, surprisingly, about what happened after Stalin died. I personally think it's absolutely hilarious because there's tons of anti-Soviet jokes, and there's tons of it's so over the top that it's absolutely hilarious. It actually stars Steve Buscemi as Nikita Khrushchev and Jason Isaacs as Field Marshal Zhukov, who's an excellent character, by the way. And it's one of the funniest movie that I've watched so far during the quarantine. Absolutely hilarious. It is rated R. There's a lot of swearing, but other than that, it's really good. One of the most memorable parts for me in the movie is when Stalin listened to a concerto on his radio, and then he loved it so much that he wanted a recording of it, right? But the people at the place where they were playing the concerto realized that they weren't recording the thing the entire time. So when Stalin called them and they found out they didn't record it, they got everyone back into the room, recorded it, and then they had to do the entire thing all over again just because Stalin asked for it to be recorded. And that just shows you how crazy the Soviet Union was back then. Like, obviously it's a little bit exaggerated, but still. And I think a brilliant thing that the scene does is intermix the scenes of the classical music with scenes of the NKVD purging people and arresting people. It's a very stark contrast, and I think the film blends that very well. It just shows
That's a
you,
classic film
yeah,
move right there.
exactly.
Classical music along with violence. Perfect combination.
So like while they're redoing the concerto, you just see NKVD arresting people, shooting people, and it's really shocking, honestly. And it's
So, how would you describe the ethos of the film?
I think it kind of it kind of shows the power grab after Stalin's death. You can see very clearly that none of them really cared about Stalin. They just want his power and his approval. So, like, for example, Stalin had the daughter, Svetlana, and his son. And you could see, like, throughout the movie how they try different waves and different approaches to try and appease her. And it's really funny. I think one of the best characters about the death of Stalin is probably Molotov, because he is depicted as a hardline Stalinist. He's like, oh, this is what Stalin would have wanted, and sometimes that just goes completely off the rail, and it has with great comedic timing. So if I had to recommend a movie for people to watch during the quarantine, it would probably be The Death of Stalin. Absolutely hilarious.
That's a great pick.
I agree.
So, what kind of audience would you say is best suited for this kind of video?
I
Who would
think
you go for?
somebody who's interested in history or has some knowledge in the history, because some of the jokes do require you to have like an understanding of what the Soviet Union is like in order for you to get it, especially like the NKVD part, because the people are like, oh, comrade, I didn't do anything, please don't shoot me, and then they just shoot them anyways. Like, it's pretty dark, but it's dark comedy. So I guess people who are interested in history and also want to get a good laugh, but also recognizing that it was a really dark time.
Marshall, go. Okay, Marshall has gone AFK, so I've. Okay, so my movie pick is Onward. It is a 2020 Pixar film. It unfortunately didn't do that well in box office due to coronavirus, but it is now available on Disney Plus, and it was a good release. And unfortunately, box office was an absolute disaster. But it's not a bad film. Not a bad film in many respects. It tells a story of this kid whose father is dead and is about to has one day to get revived through magical spells with his brother.
Oh,
And
very interesting.
Basically, the whole story is the two brothers going on a journey to find this magical gem to revive his father, who's been going on them with this journey as a bottom-legged person, like only legs. Like they were in the process of reviving him, and then like it just stopped. So you just have a person with legs, and they're trying to bring him back to life essentially for one day. And not gonna spoil the movie, but that's basically what it's about. It's a fun, classic Pixar movie, just as good as you would expect Pixar to be. Very solid film. Good themes about imagination, as well as one of the main focuses of the film was magic and like the modern world. Basically, the whole backstory of the movie is that the world used to be a magical place, and everyone had these spells that could do fancy things that are utilized throughout the film. But eventually, they moved away from that, just like in modern society. They basically everyone just started adopting technology and stuff. So they moved away from technology, and then the whole theme of the movie is basically going back to those times, I guess.
Yeah,
About how-
I'm reading the plot in Wikipedia right now, and it says that his older brother Barley was a history and role-playing game fanatic. Marshall Ma. Yeah, I just want to point that out.
What?
Well, yeah, he's actually one of the most interesting characters in the movie. Like the take that the movie has on him is, I can't say that they have a positive outlook on Dungeons and Dragons players. He's basically who that guy is. He's the classic Dungeons and Dragons player.
Of
And so
course.
throughout the
So
movie,
Marshall Ma.
Literally Marshall.
It's Marshall Ma.
throughout the movie, he's kind of portrayed as this nerd who has no life. So
Literally Marshall.
I don't know what kind of message.
Be quiet, Paul. You're a debater who can't debate.
I see how it is.
All right, it seems we sparked some conflict here.
Start some conflict. What do you think about the voice acting? I see that Tom Holland and
Tom
Chris
Holland.
Pratt are voice actors.
Yeah, some
Very
pretty
interesting.
good voices in there. Famous actors. I mean, honestly, I couldn't even tell it was Tom Holland the first time I watched it.
Really? Well, it's
really?
Tom Holland.
Yeah, he's the main character.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure normally he has a British accent, but his American accent's also pretty good.
Yeah, he has a really good American accent actually. Well, that main character, that played by Tom Holland, his whole story is basically he's a loner kid whose father is dead, and that's basically what everyone knows him for. Who has no friends and is a sad boy, and his whole redemption arc in the movie is that he wants to go meet his father
Mm-hmm.
and meet him for the first time because he was born after his death.
We should have had a spoiler warning, shouldn't we?
Well, I mean, all this information, like, I'm not spoiling the movie.
Okay.
I guess
I don't have to put a spoiler for mine since it is like, although it is a comedy,
Well, I mean,
it
it is historical.
It is
so,
historical.
I mean, do you really have to say
Yeah.
spoil?
No, not really. I mean, it's kind of already in the title. It's just the death of Stalin and how the party reacts with it. Anyways, what do you think about the soundtrack of Onward?
It's a really good soundtrack. I mean, pretty much every Pixar movie has some pretty.
I was about to say.
So, yeah.
All right, Paul, or Marshall.
I don't really have a specific movie in mind. I just want people to go and watch a Studio Ghibli film. So I know the pandemic can be stressing. You can think about all your family members. Shut up, Marshall. just the Studio Ghibli films really capture that idea of childhood
Marshall,
imagination,
stop.
and they're just so good to watch.
Attack the idea, not the person.
That's all Marshall knows.
That's true. He only
It's
knows
whole
ad
world.
hominem attacks.
No ad hominem.
So what do you think is good about these films? Like, I know they remind you of family, but is there a specific art style, maybe the soundtrack?
Well, I'm personally always a sucker for 2D art style. I don't like the modern CGI. I don't think it really captures how like a live animation can truly be. In addition, the voice acting for these films, although you can't, I'm sure most of you don't speak Japanese unless Ren or Hiroki is watching this. But shut up, Marshall. Damn it. The voice acting is absolutely phenomenal. It really feels like they're actually the character. There is no difference between the voice actor and the person like actually in the film.
Actually sounds pretty cool. Yeah, I agree with the animation style thing. I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people liked Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Animation style is always important, and sometimes it's not even about how good something looks. It's about the style and the presentation, which is why I say graphics don't matter.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
So just have to keep in mind. Are there any like messages like?
It's mostly like the old like children's stuff, like friendship, like always wins.
There's
things
nothing
like
wrong
that,
with
but
that, honestly.
it doesn't have to be deep,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
It just makes you.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
We're seeing a lot of
complex.
We're seeing a lot of different perspectives here. We went from The Death of Stalin, very grim, dark comedy film, to Onwards, family-friendly Pixar film, and now moving on to what Paul said. Marshall, do you have any recommendations?
I wouldn't say I recommend it, but I watched Frozen 2.
Wow, am I the only person who didn't pick a family-friendly film? That makes me feel bad.
So, what'd you think of it?
I
Don't
think
recommend it. What do you think of it?
animation technology have definitely advanced since Frozen 1, but the narrative quality is
Huh.
do not like about this narrative?
narrative is too simple. There isn't really any conflict. It's just that they have to go find something. It's basically a fetch quest for the characters in the movie. While there is a sub narrative in it, but it becomes really apparent and becomes a political how should I say this? How should I say this?
Political agenda?
Yeah, it basically pushes a political agenda eventually, which I really hate in media. No, just keep. You can do politics wherever you want. Just keep it out of media because no one likes an agenda shoved down their throats.
Okay, interesting perspective. Do you like the soundtrack?
No, the musical numbers are far worse, or at least overshadowed by the.
Well, I didn't think it was that bad. I mean, if you're comparing to Frozen 1, that's a pretty high bar considering the
Of course, sequels must.
virality of.
There's no point to a sequel unless it exceeds the quality of the prior film.
But they
Well,
usually
that's not why people make sequels.
sequels are effectively
Sequels
just
are
stable
cash
money for the movie industry, so
Mm,
that they
that's
can
money.
take further risks.
I mean, the prevalence of sequels in today's cinematography, Hollywood.
Waiting for that Death of Stalin sequel, the death of Nikita Khrushchev.
Yeah, the presence of sequels is kind of
Just kidding.
scary. I don't know how healthy that is for the overall market. We just
Well, obviously, I mean, just because someone makes it like, it doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. Just because there's a lot of sequel doesn't mean that it's necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes sequels can outshine the original. It just depends on what is the objective of making that sequel. Is it to make money? Is it to extend the narrative? Is it to show a new perspective? That sort of thing matters. Like Doom 2016, for example, its sequel is Doom Eternal. Now, are they making Doom Eternal to make more money, or are they making Doom Eternal because they want to extend the storyline and actually make a good sequel?
Money.
I guess. Well, I think at least
The end goal of studios is always money. That's how society works.
At least I think for id Software, money is a bonus to the sequel.
Money is always the goal of companies.
Because I know that id Software, I know that id Software truly cares about their games, and they don't just make a cheap sequel just to grab money. Because Doom
That's
Eternal
funny.
is legitimately a really good sequel.
You don't even own a game, Jason. How could you speak
No,
to this?
because I read reviews. And
Marshall, is that
watched
an ad
gameplay
hominem again?
footage.
That's not very AP English of you.
Jason, you don't even own the game.
Marshall, attack the idea, not the person.
Honorable Speaker, this side opposition is clearly not qualified to speak on this topic.
This is why we've unanimously banned you from debate.
Anyways. No, but I do get like the idea of how like too many sequels in the market could force some companies to go creatively bankrupt. I understand that.
Star
point.
Wars.
But sometimes sequels
Star
are
Wars.
handled well, like, you know, when they are handled
Well,
well.
it really comes down to the narrative because a lot
It
of
really
sequels
does.
often just try to push a story that is already completed in a sense, like which was already wrapped up in the previous movie.
Unless they could bring up like a really good point or a new perspective on the entire thing.
Yeah, that's true. But a lot of times that just doesn't happen.
Unfortunately, of course.
Hang on.
So,
And that just about wraps up our segment here.
is there anything else? Any other thing if you want to add up?
Go watch K-On!
I'm still surprised I'm the only person that didn't pick a family-friendly film.
We.
Still, that was still a really good film though. I'm just saying. Even though it's not
Alright,
I'm gonna
family.
watch it
Yeah.
after this.
Would you like to give the audience a recap before we go?
Okay, wait, are we all giving recap? Well, I mean, basically,
Go,
spoiler alert if you haven't watched the movie or don't know anything about what happened after Stalin dies. Basically, Stalin dies
Wait.
of a cerebral hemorrhage. Yeah.
Wait, hold. You just summarizing the movie?
Well, that's not what you're supposed to. You're supposed to summarize what we
illegal.
talked about. Ah.
Summarize what we talked about or summarize the movie?
The second, the first thing.
The third thing, Jason.
He only said two things, Marshall.
Exactly, that's the joke.
This is
That
why you're
doesn't make
failing calculus.
Alright, so Death of Stalin, I would give it 9 out of 10? 8 out of 10? It, certain parts does feel a little bit slow, especially if you're not interested in like watching people plot against each other. That can feel a little bit slow. Some of the jokes, they hit their marks, but definitely could be better.
I hit it, marks, get it?
No one is gonna get that, Marshall.
My favorite character is still Molotov because he's such a fanatic Stalinist. He's like, oh, I don't want factionalism. The entire party must unite. And
I guess
that I find just to be
very
hilarious.
fiery character.
Just his blind faith towards Stalin.
Does he ever get set on fire?
Get it, Molotov
Molotov?
cocktails.
So funny. So funny. Anyways. Also, I think one of the best character is Field Marshal Zhukov. Yeah, he has a Yorkshire accent. Oh, by the way, funny thing. Everybody in the Death of Stalin has a British accent. Interestingly,
This time, it's not bad acting. It's
Interestingly.
intentional.
Stalin has a Cockney accent, which makes sense since he was born in Georgia.
The wrong one though.
No, yeah, like not the state,
Like the country.
Yeah, the country Georgia. So that's why his Russian accent in real life is
It's kinda
like a
trash.
Cockney accent for English.
Wow.
Yeah, see, very clever of the filmmaker.
What?
Field Marshal Zhukov has a Yorkshire accent, and when the actor was asked why he did the Yorkshire accent, he was like, "Well, it's because everybody knows that you don't f around with people with Yorkshire accents," which makes sense because Field Marshal Zhukov was a war hero. There's also Steve Buscemi.
All right, I think the recap one.
The recap's good enough. The film. Fun fact: the film was banned in Russia and Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan.
You have angered Putin.
Yeah, makes sense honestly. It is a comedy film about Stalin, so I'm not surprised.
kind of sus that Putin would ban it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's funny.
Almost like you got offended.
Don't say it.
No,
All right.
don't say it.
I think we're done here. Any final closing remarks? I just said remarks.
He said marks.
Go out there. Well, don't go out there. Stay at home and watch some movies.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.